Hi Rachel, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you very much. I've got the doors open. Welcome into my studio, and the sun is shining. I don't know if you can hear the birds tweeting, actually. They're quite loud today.
I thought I could a minute ago. I wasn't sure if it was me or you. I think it's chucking it down here, so I hope it's unless they're out in the rain. I don't know if it's me. And who's your
No,
little
no.
friend you've got with you as well?
Sorry?
Who's your little friend you've got with you?
Well, I've got one here. This is Stan, and then I don't know if you can see him down on the floor. There's my old English bulldog. So
Ah,
if I look like I'm kind of stepping around weirdly, I'm stepping over my best friend. He hangs around and helps me move more, definitely.
there you go. I've just kicked my dog out of my office because she was snoring so loudly. I had to kick her out. I thought you don't want that. Sod the birds tweeting. You don't want a staff flipping.
Yeah, stop snoring.
So first off, Rachel, for anyone who doesn't know you or your business, can you give us an introduction of who you are and how you've got to where you are today?
Yeah, my name's Rachel, and I've been in the movement and therapy industry, predominantly movement industry, for about 30 years. Maybe even longer if we go right back. I was originally a professional dancer, and I wasn't actually that good, if I'm honest, Carl. I just stuck my hand up to anything that was going. So I worked as a cabaret dancer in Tokyo, Greece, and Hong Kong. And as a child, I'd enjoyed dance. It was disco back in the day when I was a youngster, a bit of Latin American and a bit of ballroom as well. Coming back from working abroad, I then worked as a care assistant with elderly, disabled, and started training counselling skills and going down that kind of care industry route. But at the same time, I'd enjoyed moving a lot, exercise and movement and jogging whilst I was abroad to stay fit as a dancer. So I started to collect exercise to music qualification, gym instructor, I went on and started collecting certificates as we do. So since sort of that was around, 1997 to now, the care industry lasted about 10 years. And that was a really great, the reason I wanted to mention that is because effectively we are in the care industry working as personal trainers because we're not doing it for the money. We do it because we care, we want to help people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that ran really nicely alongside the personal training and the strength and conditioning, which is really kind of my thing, is a special interest, if you like, in biomechanics. But all of that came from being a non-academic. So I've never been to university, I've never studied at degree level. However, I've had some amazing mentors and opportunities where I've gained learning and understanding around the human body and biomechanics in particular, to have the opportunity for the last 16 years to teach about human movement, the anatomy, and biomechanics. And so it all kind of merged together so nicely. And I guess that's resulted in me being here now, is my real passion is helping others learn in the way I did about a very complex subject, and ultimately how to assess movement and how to understand it better so that we can write really great, safe and effective programs for our clients, no matter what their background.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's a natural progression by sounds of it from that sort of journey that you've been on yourself. And then now it's like we were just saying briefly before I hit record, it's like bridging that gap from what I do, for example, with like the level 2, level 3, and then your courses are there to bridge that gap and obviously help people move better and educate their clients more on like the side of things that you teach. So is there anything that sort of comes up, like what's the number one or two things that sort of come up that any personal trainers, coaches watching this are definitely going to say, my client suffers with that, or I struggle with that with my own training? What's the sort of the go-to bits of advice that you can give anyone?
So that's a huge question, Carl, and I know you know that is. But for anybody watching, that there are common questions. I've been around the industry for a little while, and there are common questions that come up. Things like people having back pain, which is rife, knee niggles, shoulder issues, and this kind of language. And one of the problems for the industry, and again, I'm talking about the exercise industry, is we're not qualified to treat, diagnose, or work with injuries. And so a big part of what I try and help personal trainers understand is there's a difference between issues and injuries. And so hopefully what I'll do is I'll give you an example of a common question, and then I'll use my friend here to talk around how we identify the difference so that we can carry on working with clients who have issues but not injuries, and maybe how we can work with people with injuries depending on who we've got around us as a multidisciplinary team. So really common question, what is the best way to, and then that usually follows with squat or, you know, do certain things. So the most common one is, what's the best way to squat? Yeah. And so just to help then broaden that, because there's going to be a lot of people watching this, they're going to have a lot of things going through their mind, and they're all going to be coming from a slightly different place. So let me put that back into perspective. When we learn our anatomy, it's very 2D, and even if it's 3D like my Stan, that's still a single example of a leg or a femur or a pelvis. And yet every human that we come across has different femurs and pelvis. And so to appreciate that, first of all, when you come out of personal training school, there's a theory, and I don't know what it's called yet, that I kind of came up with, I don't know if I came up with it, I may have nicked it from somewhere, where everything's really simple in the beginning. Right, you've got quads and you've got hamstrings, and then you learn where you've got, you know, 4 quads and then you've got 3 hamstrings. Oh, right, okay, that's a bit harder. And then somebody tells you, well, you've got, some of us have 5 quads, and you go, oh, hang on a minute. That they didn't teach me that, why they're called quads. So you go through this complex phase of feeling like you don't know enough, even though you come out of PT school, you get insurance, and you are helping people. So I just want to let anybody know who's watching this, don't worry, we're all the same. But when you come back out the other end and you realize it doesn't matter how deeply you get to understand the anatomy, the application is still very simple. You know, you place your feet and you let them squat wherever their feet land, rather than being prescriptive based on everyone's got a different pelvis shape, etc. So to just kind of go back into issues and injuries just as a definition, and then there's possibly some questions coming up from you, Carl, but an injury by definition is trauma. So that's when somebody has a broken bone, a torn muscle, and they need to see a clinician. That's an injury. You fell off your bike, you had a car accident, you've got whiplash, you've got, you know, an acute injury or pain. So that really does need to be cleared through clinical practitioners, physios, osteos, GPs. And then you've got these regular issues that are deemed normal. And by the way, they're not normal, they're common, but they're not normal, that are a result of, they're like modern ailments, shall we say. So you haven't had an accident, but you've started to get this kind of like, oh, clicky shoulder, or it's a bit stiff, or when you go to squat, that arm doesn't come behind the bar as nicely. Any pain, by the way, just as a caveat, any pain is a red flag. You must see a clinician first. You must refer a client to see them. If somebody's just struggling to move, that's an issue we may be able to resolve by understanding the body better, how to assess it, and then how to prescribe relevant exercises. So I don't know what, I just want to pause there for a minute, Carl, and see whether that throws up any questions from you. Was that clear in sort of just giving a bit of a definition?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's, like you said, sort of going back to something you said earlier, I think, especially on Facebook, like it's like Marmite, isn't it? 1 minute you love Facebook, next minute you hate it when you see some of the questions on there, especially the answers more than the questions sometimes. But everyone thinks that they have to be degree level like doctors to help people, even with like a sore back. Like you said, it's good that you've gone through that explanation of there's like 2 different types. Like one, yes, you've got to go to a doctor, you've got to go to a physio, osteopath, whatever it may be, but you still can hurt people, then help people to a certain extent with the knowledge that people have already had, or obviously people going through your courses. So if they are sort of unsure on that, what you've just said and how you've explained it is brilliant. The only thing is, when you were saying it, when you're saying about a bad back and a bad shoulder, I felt myself trying to sit upright because I've got a few ailments myself. So I was trying not to like click my neck as you were saying it, but if I start fidgeting, you know why.
I won't judge you. I won't judge you. But just to kind of expand on that a little bit, when you start to learn more about the anatomy, and I suggest people do, because you get more confident the more you know, but you start to recognize you'll never know it all. So I guess there's kind of the two kind of ways of looking at learning the anatomy is like, oh, I can never learn all of it. And I've been in the cadaver labs about 6 times now, where we look at dissections, we look at different sort of bodies, and it was a really big comfort to realize that we're all completely different on the inside in a kind of weird way. There's me trying to remember exactly where things went and what they did, and yet I look at these cadavers, I'm like, well, he's got 5 quads and he's got a triple-headed bicep, so how does that change the way they move? And really, we're as different on the inside as we are on the outside. And so the more you understand that and appreciate it in application, flexion's flexion, rotation's rotation, whether you have a 5th quad or not, you know, hopefully you still flex at the hip, flex and extend at the knee, and so on. So understanding movement is far more important in application. And then if we can layer our understanding of the anatomy, get deeper into that as we go gradually, that can really help and enhance our confidence, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's and again, sort of going back to, I should stop quoting the things I see on Facebook, shouldn't I? But it's like when people go, oh, which PT course should I do? And everyone's like, I'll do the cheapest, do it as quick as you can. It's like, no, because then you're gonna have to sort of like come back and relearn everything from, let alone from your level 2 and 3. But then, you know, like you said, it's not one size fits all. Everyone moves differently. If you understand the anatomy and physiology, the movements, the programming better first time round, you're going to be in a much better place going forwards. And again, I'm all for CPDs, I'm all for like additional training courses and stuff like that, and hence why, you know, I got you on today, because if you don't carry on your education and you don't carry on understanding how the body works, you're going to be left behind. So I think, you know, it's important to carry on studying, in my opinion. But anyway, slight rant.
No, but I'm going to defend. I'm going to defend the PTs here, because remembering when I learned anatomy and physiology right back to level 2, I kind of do my A&P. You know, I wasn't that quick. I'm a very slow learner. I struggle to look at text. I didn't have a skeleton then and a resistance band to play around with remembering the anatomy, which is my favourite way now. But I went through that anatomy training, and in my head, I was thinking, I don't know why I'm learning this, because I know how to tell someone to squat. So I didn't have an application relevance to help me remember it. There was no point in my head in me remembering it. So I just want to defend the learners out there who maybe had that feeling, and that was the same for me. Right in the early days, I was like, I know how to teach people to move. You know, I was the dancing queen, you know, I could coach, and I was a great coach. I was really good at seeing people. I knew when it wasn't quite right, and I could coach technique really well. I was really good at that. Couldn't remember the anatomy. So I thought, well, do I need it? But then what happens, as you will know, being in the industry a while, then when people come in with these issues, and I'm going, so is that the adductors, or I don't know the anatomy well enough to identify why they have that issue with their movement. So that's when I found the value in learning the anatomy. So it came much later. So I think it's important to say that for anyone who's a new learner who maybe had that experience. So I think for you and I as educators, it's trying to find ways to make anatomy fun, relevant, and retainable based on what we're actually doing with clients in the gym. And that's why we teach the movement first, the skeletal anatomy first, so abduction, adduction, kind of the easy bit that we then forget about because we're trying to remember where the vastus medialis goes and that pectineus one, I can't remember where that is. We remember the level 2, and the level 2 anatomy in application is the one I use the most in application with a client. Do they flex? Do they extend? Do they rotate? But then I've got that now deepening level of understanding of what might limit rotation, what might limit flexion, just to help me appreciate that even more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's good.
So what I thought we could do is just a couple of things to maybe highlight the challenges of learning about the anatomy. And I think we are almost blinkered into thinking that all bodies look like the ones we see in our books or our stands, if we've got a stand. Have you got a stand?
I haven't, no, I need one though. Now I've seen yours, I need to get a
Stands are really good for that 3D appreciation of muscles and attachments. So I have my resistance band and I have my stand. And so appreciating things, and I've got this isn't obviously a stand, this is, I haven't named this one actually, this is a separate pelvis, to just try and highlight some of the differences. So let's go back to the squat question. So what's the best way to squat? So if I had a group of people here now, and if anybody watching this wants to have a go, feel free to sit down in what we call a caveman squat. Yeah, you know the caveman squat, they call it the A to G. Can I say that word?
Yeah.
A to G, ass to grass.
Yeah.
So kind of as a hunter-gatherer, you know, we would sit down on our haunches to build a fire. We didn't have chairs back in the day. You know, it's a very modern thing to have chairs to sit at.
Yeah.
What chairs do is they limit movement. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But if you were to look at a group of people, maybe you get the people around you in your house or wherever you are to all squat, and you look at the direction that the femur goes in, one knee to the other knee, or the angle of the tibia, or the foot position, the toes pointing in or out, or the gap between the heels, are they quite narrow or quite wide? You know, does the hip tuck under? Is the spine upright? And what you'll see is everybody looks completely different. So in response to the question, what's the best way to squat? Then it's usually a long-winded answer. It's never, oh, you need your feet pointing at 2 o'clock and your knees in line, because if we try and create the same position for everyone, it's going to be really uncomfortable for some people, and for others, they'll be fine. So understanding things like your acetabulum, so this area here, which is where the femur sits in. So if you imagine looking at, this is the front of the pelvis here, and the femur would go into that sort of disc, if you like, that dip there. And what can happen is you can have an acetabulum that points more forwards or points more to the side, or any variation, or more upright or further down. So you can imagine how that is going to change what happens when you sit into a squat. The length of femurs will change. So people are taller than others, and that can be based on the stacking of each of the bones, so that the height of each bone on top of each other makes some people taller, some people shorter. That is going to alter the concertina between the femur, the tibia, and the foot. And so the little Chinese guys, when they're doing their Olympic lifts and they sit in their squat and their tibia are almost straight up to the ceiling because they've got very short femurs. But people like myself, I've got a very long femur, so my tibial angle is much greater, and so I get a more forward lean in the upper body. And so understanding all these differences help us think, well, what's the best way to squat? Let your client put their feet wherever they want to. We can coach a little bit. You know, we might coach upright. We might say, just push the knees out a little bit. But the better we understand how to assess their pelvis and their movement, we really should just kind of let them, to some degree, get into the position that they feel best in. Does that make sense?
Yep, no, definitely.
And so optimum squat positions, I mean, there probably are mechanically really perfect positions for certain types of squat, but knowing that Barry, your client down the gym, has got those perfect femur lengths in relation to the knee angle, to the tibia, like it's chances are it's not going to happen. There's more variables than that.
Yeah.
Because if we then layer on the soft tissue of the muscles, knowing that some people can have 5 quads, 6 quads even, let's talk about the articularis gellis, you know, different lifestyles will change the way we move as well. So talking about sitting, and if you sit in that static sort of 90 degrees at the hip for any length of time, which most of us do these days, you're on the train, on the bus, watching TV, sitting at your desk, waiting at the doctors, you know, you're pretty much going to be in 90 degrees at the hip. So what does the body do? Well, we know as personal trainers, the environment will shape the body, as does exercise. And so if you just sit in that position for a long time, the tissues will adapt. And so our job is to understand the influence of lifestyle, the effects of our natural genetic makeup, combined with issues and injuries, and, you know, trying not to be too hard on ourselves when we find it all quite chaotic in trying to help each client, and they're so different. So maybe learning about, like you said, better information about the anatomy, how we move, some assessments, the right preparation techniques, what's a red flag, what's an okay green flag, gives us more tools. And I think that's the key part, is it's just having a collection of tools in our kit bag, right?
Yeah, definitely. So so with regards to, like, going back to like the squat and stuff like that, is that something that can be fixed? Is it something that, again, on your courses, is like, what do you sort of take people through when, how to look at certain assessments, and how can they adapt that and give that to their clients without having to do your course? Obviously at the moment, obviously, you know, it'd be great if anyone would sign up to that, but what sort of hints and tips can you give people to look out for? And like you said already, it's not a one size fits all. It's, you know, you squat the way that you want to squat, and we can adapt it slightly as a coach. But is there anything that literally screams out that they shouldn't be doing, or is there anything that's like a red flag almost, where that might cause injury? Because, again, you know, you hear of stories from people hurting their lower back or their pelvis from squatting or doing exercise incorrectly. Is there any sort of little hints and tips that you can advise people on that are going to highlight any of those issues?
Yeah, number one, pain is a red flag, period. But some clients that I've had have said they've got their back hurts, and I said, does it hurt? So, well, no, it's just a bit stiff. So I think being a great communicator, having a really solid consultation at the front, and I recognise there are some clients, they don't divulge everything, and you get to week and they say, oh, I forgot to say I had a spine fusion in 2015. You're like, you didn't tell me that on the consultation.
Yeah, what did you tell me?
Yeah, so trying to pull as much as we can out, and giving a lot of time to the consultation at the front to understand at a deeper level what the client's coming to you with. Pain is a red flag, period. All PTs should have a multidisciplinary routine to call upon to clear a client who is in pain. If they have niggles, little aches and niggles that aren't caused by trauma, they're common modern ailments, technically that's still a red flag, because it may be an underlying issue that the client is totally unaware of. So there are online systems, there's a safety net system that we've designed that allows personal trainers to put clients through a clinical screen if they have anything at all going on, which a lot of people do these days, that can either pump them straight back with a green, off you go, or they highlight something, actually, we probably need to get something checked out.
Yeah.
So with all that in place and understanding our remit, and obviously going on and getting sort of level 4s and understanding how to communicate with clinicians and getting a deeper level of understanding in that area, let's just say new PT, new client, no pain, no injuries, nothing going on. The simplest, easiest, free way to assess your client is just get them to move, get them to squat, get them to sit up and down into a chair or the floor, depending on their level. If it's somebody elderly, you might think, well, a chair is probably better. If it's somebody who's more agile, you could say, hold on, or just show me a squat. One of the things I do with clients, day one, when they've come in, I do all my consulting online, first of all. First session in, I'll say, can you just show me how you get up and down off the floor? And so just seeing the way they move, you know, if they're kind of just, oh, right, you know, it tells us what, doesn't tell us why, but it does tell us what. And it will give us a lot of information about, right, okay, they're very nervous about forward flexing, or, you know, it looks like the right hip's a bit sticky, or it's just a benchmark. So with the client's permission, I always say, if you can photo and film them, maybe you can use these apps now that take the face off. So GDPR, you know, to anonymize them, but with the client's permission, they're pretty good. They want to know what you're analyzing. So before and after photos are really good. So if you take a photo or a video, let's say of the side view of a client's squat position, it can show you how much the tibia leans forward, or the spine is flexed, or the pelvis is tucked under into, they call that a butt wink, where the pelvis is tilted posteriorly. And you can get these are measures. It's just like a simple blueprint. Day one, this was Barry, yeah? You can then start to use preparation techniques and, you know, prehab techniques if you feel they need them, mobility drills, flexibility drills, and then start to strengthen them. And then a week down the line, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, we can do that same photo or video, the side squat, and we see that they're actually in a better position. So that does two things. Number one, it tells us the program's working. Great. Number two, it motivates and shows the client it's working, which of course holds a huge value in motivation as to the ways we can help them. So literally, when a client comes in and says, I want to lose weight, or I want to get stronger, I might ask them what techniques they're using already. Have they used a squat machine? Are they bench pressing? I might just film and photograph certain movements, a roll down or a deadlift, or again, it's client dependent. I might film them walking on a treadmill, or I might film them jogging on a treadmill. So there's a variety of ways that we can film and photo and benchmark the start point. Obviously, we must get client permission, but that's a really great way of showing the start point and then seeing whether what we're doing is working. You don't need to do any training for that. You can literally just use your knowledge as a trainer. You say, right, okay, show me a squat, get them to do a front squat, a back squat, an overhead squat, a goblet. You know, there could be a variety of squat techniques you film them doing. So that would be quick, easy. We're already doing that, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're already analysing movement, but putting it into a measuring process. Here's your benchmark. This was day one, Barry. See how your spine's really flexed? We're going to work on your spine mobility. There may be some stuff coming from your hips, so we're going to get your glutes on a foam roller or a lacrosse ball, and then we're going to film that again in a week or so after we've added some squats on top, and we're going to see how you feel. If people have any concerns, again, refer. However, in reference to your question about hurting people during exercise, and I don't have any research papers on this, but in my professional experience, if somebody hurts their back during a squat, it's very highly likely, in my opinion, that they already had an underlying biomechanical issue. So whether you coached bad technique or they did it slightly wrong, there is a chance there was a problem waiting to happen in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Obviously, alongside that, you may have loaded them up too quickly or too heavily, or got them into a position that their body wasn't ready for. So there's obviously several reasons why people can be hurt during exercise, but there's a few reasons. But in my experience, most people have modern physical adaptations when they come to us as personal trainers, and we're not given the tools to assess outside of show me a squat, show me how you run or walk. That's really all we get most of the time in our basic training.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you ever feel that, I remember I had a client like many moons ago when I was sort of first out as a personal trainer, I was adamant about going down the postural route, and I think obviously I completely said it as not in these words, but it's probably almost like, right, we're not going to concentrate on fat loss until we've like sorted your posture out, etc. Obviously, you've got to sort of approach it in a certain way, because most clients will come to us for that, won't they? Like fat loss or muscle gain. They won't, like, very rarely will be like, oh, I need to improve my posture and my pelvis is out of line and stuff like that, because they don't always know or see it themselves. But I suppose it's quite important to, it's like anything though, isn't it? It's important to sort of get across the benefits of why we're doing what we're teaching them in relation to that fat loss or that long-term goal. Because if we're in a correct posture and correct technique and forms better, then they're going to get better results and quicker results. But it's just getting that across in the first hour. Do you ever sort of say to your students about approaching that? Because like I said, I just, when you were saying it, I just flashed back to this woman, and she literally said to me, I don't want to do those exercises. And I was like, I just froze. I was like, okay, you sort of need to do them.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we've got to let the client know that we hear them and we're acknowledging the reason for them coming. But then we have to find communication techniques to let them know our professional opinion is actually so that we don't have a problem later on and we can optimize the benefits of what we're going to do to help you lose weight. We really need to start here. So there's a couple of ways of looking at it. Number one, I don't take clients who aren't going to follow my advice, because ultimately that's what they're paying for. Yep. Number two, obviously if you're a new PT and you haven't got that confidence to basically just turn people away, then it's understanding communication drills and techniques. So there's a great guy, Dr. Gary Mendoza, who has a nutrition degree, and he's also got a PhD in behavior change and motivational interviewing. So I've just finished his training course, and I think I've got to give it a bit of a shout out, because that basically would solve what's known as ambivalence. And so the techniques of motivational interviewing, and there's a great audio book as well, by the way, motivational interviewing for fitness and exercise. No, fitness and nutrition, and it's on Audible. So if you've got an Audible account, it's one credit. But that book teaches, again, the concepts of how do we engage clients, use reflection, affirmation, and evoking questions to help them feel like they're centered in the approach, even though we're guiding them down a path which might not have been their original requirement. So I guess another option is to assess them and show them, look, okay, Sally, so I know you want to lose weight, but if I show you this test on your pelvis, can you see how you're a bit asymmetrical? What I don't want to do taking you on the weight loss journey is for you to have any back problems down the line or knee problems. So we're just going to use these techniques, get your pelvis moving a bit more freely as we go. The better you move, the more you'll move, the more weight you'll lose. So it'll have a better effect long term, and it will optimize your training, and we'll get there quicker with reduced risk of you getting a back or knee injury. How does that sound? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sort of, it's like putting the emphasis on them, isn't it? To sort of almost, it's like what you do with kids, isn't it? It's like you make it think it's their idea to tidy their room. It's like, do you think your room looks acceptable like this? No, tidy it up then. But yeah, it's just, it's funny to say Gary's got a video in the group already, so he'll appreciate the shout out, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. He's brilliant. I've just signed up for his psychometric testing one straight away. I was like, yes, I need some more of this.
Yeah, see, we went through the COM-B model, if you've heard of that one yet. But we've got a video, and if not, you can watch the video in the group, can't you?
Yeah, I've just got your rain. Thank you very much.
Oh, there you go.
I've gone from sunshine to your rain. Thanks for that, Carl.
There you go. Well, your birds have just appeared at my window. That's and your dog's just left your room and he's scratching at my back. How close do you live? Jesus Christ. So what? So your Wi-Fi is going to start going dodgy now because you got the rain.
Yeah.
So is there sort of, if we could sort of give people like the three main tips, again, either taking them from where they are now in their sort of studies to what it is you deliver, what's the three sort of main tips that you can give to personal trainers with including biomechanic education and delivery into their personal training and coaching?
I mean, follow us on social media. I give loads of information away, and people keep saying you do too much for free, Rach, but really it is about, I feel I'm the same. I just started longer ago. So for anybody who's new in particular, I've never done a degree. I'm not academic, and that doesn't mean you're not smart, you're not intelligent, and you can't help people. You absolutely can. The learning process, and there's a guy called Mike Stewart, and his business is called No Pain, K-N-O-W. He's a physio, and he's got a degree in education. And he talks about when you first learn a subject, it's very black and white. So level 2 is called dualist, and everything's very simple. Do what Carl said in your level 2 anatomy, yeah. And then, as I said earlier, you go into this stage of getting a deeper level, and then things become slightly confusing. That's normal. That is a normal phase to go through. It's almost like a deliberate response to force you to start asking more questions in your own mind. So one of the things that I try and help learners understand is don't be afraid to say, I have no idea, either to a client or to your peers. Say, I have no idea, but you know what? I'm going to find out. That puts you on then the learning journey to go, find the solution, find the answer, go and learn. And that confusion state is quite deliberate for our learning process. And then what hopefully happens is you end up in a state of confidence about what you do know and what you don't know. And that's okay. And that's the same across the board of all bodywork practitioners, from personal trainers, physios, podiatrists, surgeons. Know what you do know really well, but know what you don't know, and either find someone to help. So I just wanted to lay that out, because I'm not sure the level of the learners, but some of them may be quite new. So don't beat yourself up. Find ways or educators who can help you through the learning process. So I've just written, they're all on the website. I'm just putting them together into a course, going through the anatomy, the bones, the muscles of the pelvis, spine, shoulder, knees and feet. But in how you use that in application, how do I remember acetabulum, pectineus? How do I remember that, and what use is it to me? So that's what I've tried to do, is the way I learned it. Yeah. From the assessment side of things, as I've said, you can just simply assess movement on day one. We do teach evidence-based physical assessments. I think there's about 43 in total. You can access them on several workshops. You're not obliged to do all of it. You can just do a couple of days or one day, learn a bit about the pelvis and the spine, for example, how to assess the pelvis and spine by mechanics and movement, the muscles, the bones and the nerves. There's a shoulder, knee and foot workshop. And then there's a clinical workshop, which helps you appreciate, not be a clinician obviously, but understand and appreciate clinical stuff and how to communicate. They can teach you assessments and exercise, and the exercises are those precursors, those prehab kind of really cool muscle energy techniques, nerve mobilizations, but we teach you how to do that within your scope of practice. Following on from that, the communication side, which is really important. One of the things that we do is, we train people up, but we stick with you, like yourself, Carl. We want to help people feel successful beyond our training. So our promise to every learner that comes through our courses is you have a lifelong commitment from us to help. And so we have free content, free pages. We're on Instagram at biomechanics_education. There's a lot of stuff going on there at the moment with the reels. I do little mini clips and videos to try and give you free content and ideas. Facebook, we've got several groups. So at the moment, a very active one is the Biomechanics Q&A group. I'm actually doing a live in there tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And so you can ask anything you want. And the idea is there is no shame in any question. If it's a genuine question, it's not stupid. There's never any stupid questions. Yeah. So really surrounding yourself and immersing yourself in education companies that have integrity and genuinely care about your success and you gaining confidence as a trainer in helping your clients move more freely. It's almost like I'd rehearsed that, wasn't it? Like, you know, been around a while.
I should just push stop as soon as you said that, shouldn't I? Like, stop recording. Perfect. Finish on your tagline. I can put a little graphic when a website pops up as well.
Yeah, we've actually got the YouTube channel as well, which has been super dynamic over lockdown. So the Biomechanics Education YouTube channel, loads and loads of free stuff, and I've pushed that just again to try and help, particularly new learners, new PTs, people who've struggled over lockdown. Give us a shout if there's a video you haven't done and you have a question. Just let us know. I'll make it.
Yeah, and if you ping me all those links, I'll put them underneath this video in the group. So if anyone wants to come and check that out. And the funny thing is, isn't it, like there's so much free content out there that people aren't utilizing, but it's like, you know, Rachel said, it's there, it's on a website, it's on a YouTube channel. Go and use it. It's there. That's what it's there for. It's not like a hard sell, and Rachel's not going to like trick you halfway through and pop up and make you buy anything. It's free resource that's going to help you help your clients. So use it.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I only want people who desperately want my education. I don't try and twist anyone's arm, because the only people I want bearing our brand as a biomechanics coach is people who desperately want to be one. So hence all the free content, just because I feel really strongly about the industry. And so, yeah, go and find us. And as I say, let me know if there's anything, I mean, relevance to anybody watching. If there's a question you have and you can't find the answer, even in the free stuff, send it over.
Yeah, no, definitely will do. And again, that's something I share. Like my Instagram feed, for example, is all about, I don't even talk about personal training courses. It's all about sales, marketing, business, branding to help personal trainers get more clients. Because, you know, as you probably sort of know yourself, when you're a course provider, sometimes selling your courses all the time is a bit like, oh, but again, like Rachel does, like I do, there's free content out there. Just please make sure you go and use it. But like I said, I'll get those links off you, Rachel, and I'll put them underneath this video when I stick it into the group. So if anyone wants to get in contact, they can do. And anything last, any famous last words? Do you want to rehearse your tagline again, and we can pretend that we didn't just have that?
Keep it simple. That's it. Keep it simple. That is what I enjoy doing, is helping PTs understand. Keep it simple.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for your time today, Rachel. Thanks to Stan and all the other.
Pleasure. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Stan and Broxy, my little crew.
That's it. All your props in the background that have made the video even that bit more special, especially the dog. There you go. Look, yeah. You even get a free hat.
I'm not a nerd, really. I'm totally a nerd.
Right, look, Rachel's gone mental, so that's it. I'm definitely pushing stop now. Cheers, Rachel.
Take care.